name's Jamie from All Movies Fresh. Today we have Jesse Collin, who plays Dodge in The Recruit, which you can check out on Netflix. So how are you keeping today, Jesse?
I'm doing very well, doing very well.
Played Dodge in The Recruit.
Yep.
How do you prepare yourself for different roles? Is there any certain rituals that you have to do to get into character?
It's a great question. I mean, I think the thing about the way acting works and auditioning, we kind of have to be blank slates a lot of the time in terms of not necessarily knowing what it is that we're going to be preparing for any audition. So, in the instance of Dodge, I think I had maybe a month between the audition to getting to set, and so for me, the character of Dodge was really found in collaboration with makeup, with wardrobe, with hair. Uh, a lot of people don't know this, but so we started the season in Yemen. That was
Okay.
that was where our characters were introduced. We didn't shoot in Yemen. We shot in Montreal in
Mm.
-20-degree weather outside, but we had to make it look like we were in the desert. And so my character started off in a t-shirt, and how we would start every shoot day, I would sit in the makeup chair and they would spray tan me head to toe because I needed to look like I had been in the desert for weeks, if not months at a time. And so that to me was very much how I became Dodge.
Okay.
I was Jesse, and then I would get spray tanned, and I was the most tan I had ever been in my life, and that was Dodge. Uh, Same thing with wardrobe. I mean, anytime you end up dressing in tactical gear, you get your boots, and all of a sudden you have a little different walk.
Yeah.
Because you're taking up space now because that's the guy, that's the walk. Yeah, and even with hair, like as you can see, I'm pretty salt and pepper, a lot of salt.
Yeah.
And Dodge, we colored my hair because
Yeah.
that was the kind of the direction we went in. The hair was long because they'd been working for a long time in remote areas, so it just ended up being uh, a very different version of myself.
Yeah.
One of the best compliments I got from anyone who had watched the show is they'd say like, oh, I watched the first episode, but I couldn't find you.
Okay.
But it's because they were looking for me and not the,
Dodges.
hairy and Dodge persona.
Yeah.
It's just such a compliment.
It is. I mean, you as it the how it's crazy how they can transform a person and look totally different on there because
Yeah.
we were rewatching the show and looking for yourself as well, and it's sometimes it's hard to find, and then you feel rude if you like saying, oh, I didn't recognize you in the show, I didn't, which one were you, were you in the show, did you have a little bit, and you it's a bit like, oh well, you interviewing myself, you should know about
Yeah,
these
no,
things
that's
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But is anything that you sort of, because you star in many things, and is there anything that you take away from each particular thing you star in and put that forward to your next show?
Yeah, I mean, I look at this show, for example, and the concept itself is just so interesting. The idea of lawyers that work for the CIA and what sorts of cases they may have to be working and exposed to. And so, I mean, for me, when I found out that I booked the show, I started reading about the CIA and spies because I think there's a glamorized version of what that looks like in terms of a James Bond or a Jason Bourne type figure. But I mean, there are thousands of people that are employed by governments all over the world
Yes.
that do this kind of work. And so, yeah, I would say just an interest in that, uh, an interest in everyday carry and all things tactical. Uh, one of the things I really loved was just learning about how all of these characters would operate in the real world. So I
Mhm.
remember our first day on set, we were getting equipped with all of our props. So our plate carriers and magazines and guns and whatnot, and it came time to pick our watches.
Okay.
And we were outside in minus 20-degree weather. It was supposed to be like a desert, and props had brought us a bunch of watches to pick. And I looked at all the watches, and I none of them really felt right to me.
Okay.
Like some of them were a little shiny or a little blingier, and I thought to myself, this guy is so good at his job. It's going to be something that is purely for utility. It's not going to be flashy. It's going to be just, black, no nonsense. And I actually had my own G-Shock watch that I had, my own personal watch. I said, you know what? I feel like I'm going to wear my
Mm,
own watch. And so I ended up
yeah.
with this black G-Shock, which was my own, but I ended up wearing it for every day as the character. So
Okay.
I would say an appreciation for that sort of thing as well.
It's interesting what you just said about just the watch aspect, and it's all these things that build up a character itself. And from a viewer, well, any regular viewer, you wouldn't think that, but that has something so small has an impact on building each character on there, and shows a resemblance of who you are. Um, with the recruit, first off, congratulations to the first successful season, and it
Thank you.
also being renewed as well.
Yes.
Um, we see a lot of streaming sites. It's a lot of hesitancy whether it's going to be renewed or whether it's not. Did you for yourself feel like, oh, did you have any expectation to think, is it going to be renewed or not? On
I mean, I would receive scripts for the first season, and the first thing I would do is to see if my character died.
okay,
So, I mean, in terms of expectation, I think it's a great premise. It's a great story. We have an incredible cast, and so I don't know if I would say that there was an expectation of getting a season two, but I think there was definitely a hope and a belief. Uh, Not every show is lucky to get that, but I think with the way that Alexi ended the first season, I definitely think there was a plan in place to take the
mm.
story somewhere in the event that we got a second season. So, yeah, no, we're very excited to see what happens with the show.
Is there any times where you've looked at a script as you as a character on there, and it's been way completely different to when you're actually performing the role?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking about season one, there was a sequence that my character was going to take part in, which I won't spoil because who knows, it could get renewed for a season two scene. But there was a very cool sequence with my character, and I got very excited, and I started doing research, watching YouTube videos about what would happen if this happened to this character. And but by the time it came to shooting the episode, unfortunately, it hit the cutting room floor in terms of what we were going to work on and take the character. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the exciting things about doing a TV series in particular is because you get this character, and uh, unlike a film where you kind of know beginning, middle, and end, you have this character that is just it's a tool for the story. And so, I mean, I've done roles where you appear in one episode and then you may never get seen again. And
Mm.
then in this instance with the recruit, uh, I appear in the first episode. We think we're never going to see these characters again, and
Yeah,
then sure enough, by episode four, we have a total badass slow motion walk into the
yeah,
CIA offices. Um, because yeah, the cool kids are back. So yeah, I would say that that sort of thing happens all the time. And as an actor, you obviously advocate for your character in terms of what you want your character to be doing.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, the priority is telling the story, and so sometimes you get some really cool sequences that have to be revised or changed
Okay.
uh, because at the end of the day, the story is what really matters.
True. Couldn't have said it better. Working in a tough industry, um, how do you find yourself trying to stay motivated? Is there anything that you do just to help build up motivation to keep on acting?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the biggest kind of shift in mindset is just recognizing that acting is not the business of acting.
Yeah,
There is the business, there is aspirations of fame and fortune and the Hollywood dream. But at the end of the day, I mean, we love acting because we love performing, whether it's for 100 people or for Netflix subscribers or for 2 or 3 or 5 people. So I think, yeah, reminding myself of that we would do it regardless of the size of the audience. We just love telling stories and playing parts. Uh, so I think that's a big thing, is just kind of reframing the focus and saying like, okay, this, there's acting and then the business of acting. And then I think the other thing too is just appreciating the process, you
yeah,
know, learning to love auditioning, because at the end of the day, auditioning is mostly what being an actor is actually.
that's true.
Um, so loving the process.
Good. I think, like you said, you can look back into where you started from to now, and you've worked on yourself as an actor, other aspects that you do as well. Um, Rejection is something that every actor, actress goes through. I think everyone experiences in life on there. Do you use this sort of rejection and the feedback that you've got as something that you learn from, or is it something that just, brings your mood down? How do you deal with the rejection?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are different reasons why you end up getting rejected. So I think that, I mean, that even seems very harsh, the idea of being rejected. But there are lots of reasons why you don't get a job.
Yeah,
And I think that uh, it's really important to be mindful of what some of those reasons can be. I had a friend of mine not that long ago ask me, do you check to see who booked the parts that you auditioned for but didn't get? And I said, oh no, I don't want to, get into that. I think it would be valuable, and it's interesting because when you actually look at who may have booked jobs that you didn't get, you start to appreciate the differences between performers.
okay.
There's a joke which I love, which is how many actors does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Yeah.
One. And all the rest of them go, yeah, I can do that. But the reality is that
Yeah.
we can't do that. I firmly believe that the parts you book are the parts that are meant for you, and the parts you
Mhm.
don't book are meant for someone else. And so, yeah, looking at those reasons for rejection and then, adapting. So if it's something that's actionable, like, for example, when I was younger in my career, I had a callback for a TV show that shoots here in Canada,
Okay.
and I didn't get the part. But the
Yeah.
casting director was very kind to me. I had a long history with, and she put me aside and said, Jesse, you didn't book the part. And the reason why was because you licked your lips a lot. And
Oh,
the producers were worried that you were nervous and would do that on set. And you better believe that every audition that I had after that, I was putting
Vaseline.
moisturizer and chapstick and everything on because I didn't want there to be an excuse. So I think that's, there are things to be learned from rejection,
Yeah,
and then noise that should be ignored as well, because at the end of the day, we can only control so much.
exactly. Is there ever a part where you felt like you were sort of harshly rejected and you thought that when you actually did see the person who got it, that you genuinely did feel like you could have done a better role or even fact a similar?
I don't know if I would say a part where I thought that I could do better, but there are definitely parts that I've auditioned for that just seem really, really fun.
Yeah.
And I'm very jealous when someone else gets to do it, you know. But I mean, the thing is, they also do it really well. So I mean, I don't know if I could say I would do it better, but it definitely looks fun.
Yeah. it hits hard, especially like you said, you enjoy a role and then you don't get it, and then they're having fun with it, and you're sort of missing out. But from the previous answers you gave, you just sort of said, right, okay, I can learn from this,
Yeah,
and what's meant to be is meant to be.
yeah.
You start mainly in, yeah. Go on, sorry.
I was gonna say it's tough because when you do the audition, when you're auditioning for a part, at least for that moment, for that day or two that you get to prepare the material, that part is yours.
Yeah,
So it's tough because you start to have ownership over some of those creative decisions, and it's really easy to get excited about where the character could go, or uh, your own interpretation of a scene. But yeah, at the end of the day, you also have to be able to give it up and say, yeah, here's my version. Uh, Take it or leave it. If I'm close to what your version of the story is, great. If not, I'm sure someone else will be able to do to tell the story you want to tell.
that's a good answer. You mainly star in TV series. Um, is something that you prefer to go in, or would you prefer to go into movies?
You know, I, in terms of beggars can't be choosers, I, I will do any and everything. Um, but I do really like the idea of a long form story. The idea of starting with a certain character at, say, season one of a TV show, and then being able to go through, 3 or 4 years with this character, and then
Yeah.
being able to look at where you started versus where you finished. That's
Mhm.
very exciting to me. With the film, you generally have access to the entire script, so you kind of know what the entire journey is right from the very beginning. And I love the idea of being able to be surprised as an actor with the character.
Good.
So yeah, I would say that's kind of the appeal that television has for me. But I mean, I put me in a movie, I will happily do a movie.
I actually had a similar answer to that. Someone actually said that they prefer TV series, and I think that might be a common theme with actors and actresses because you can tell a story over so many episodes and it sort of builds up rather than in 1.5 hours where it's literally start to finish, it's done.
Yeah,
And you can see, like you said, how your character progresses from start to finish, how they change up, and
yeah,
their perspective of the show changes as well.
yeah,
And I love that. I love that it is good. And if that is a genuine thing that you can go sort of, they can set actors and actually say, look, do you want to star more in series or movies? And they can sort of push you down that route on there.
yeah.
Um, is there anything that you have outside of acting, like any hobbies or interests, just to help with your downtime on there and just take away the acting side?
Yeah. Right at the start of the pandemic, I bought a kayak,
Wicked.
and yeah, it's become my happy place, honestly, because when you're out on the water on Lake Ontario, uh, you can't think about anything except being in the boat, because if you get distracted or focus on the wrong thing, you just end up flipping and you're in the water. So no, yeah, kayaking for me has kind of become my happy place over the last few years.
Good. I think move water is just sort of that relaxing, peaceful mind,
Yeah,
and everyone needs that sort of downtime. Um, and whatever you sort of go through as an actor, you have that to sort of say, look, I need a break out of it. Sit on a kayak as well.
yeah,
Um, when you do take breaks from acting, though, like if you go on a holiday or you just take break like a hiatus or something, um, if there's any potential opportunities that do come up, what do you do? Do you sort of just put that on pause? Do you just come straight back from your holiday, or do you just say, look, I'm on a break on there and I'm just going to carry on enjoying myself?
yeah. Well, I mean, the joke is that if you haven't worked in a while, book a vacation,
Okay.
because usually that's when the phone starts to ring, and suddenly you're having to think, well, do I go on this vacation or do I take this job? But no, yeah, I mean, I think as you get older and as you kind of mature in your career, learning how to say no becomes uh, really attractive.
Yeah.
Because when you first start out, you feel like you have to say yes to everything because you don't know this could be the one and only time the phone rings for a job. Uh, but no, yeah, I mean, I think as I've gotten older, I've started to appreciate and prioritize other things in my life, whether that's vacationing, travel, family as well.
Mm.
Uh, and I think the first one or two times that you kind of set that boundary and say I'm taking time off, I think that there's some anxiety there.
Yeah.
You're worried that that's going to be it, and you're never going to hear from another audition again. But the reality is that everyone in the industry are human beings and people, and everyone needs to take some time off every once in a while. So, uh, yeah, I think learning to say no can be a really valuable lesson as an actor.
Yeah. It is a tough like decision between, because you guys are all literally focused on work, 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 and then it's if you're having project after project after project, it's like when do you get your time out on there as well? And you like you say, you have to balance your personal life, family life as well with acting. Um, have you got any upcoming projects that you're excited about that you could share with us?
I mean, I'm really excited for season two.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I'm getting little tidbits of information from the cast in terms of series regulars. Uh, we're going to be shooting in Vancouver, I believe in July. Uh, yeah, no, I'm really excited for season two. I think that we have such a great cast of actors, and they're all capable of doing such amazing things that it really, I think, gives Alexi uh, just so many possibilities in terms of where the story could go.
yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that's really, truly what I'm most excited for.
What was it like working with people like Noah Centino and Fievel and everyone else?
Oh, it was really really exciting. I mean Noah for one, he's a great number one on the call sheet. He was our leader, our captain.
Yeah,
He was executive producer on the show as well, and he made sure that we were all taken care of. He was just a positive influence on the set every day. And I look at the rest of the cast, and I think, if you were to take a list of everyone on the show and say, okay, this is who we're going to put into a spy TV show,
yeah,
I think there would be some eyebrows being raised a little bit because I think you look at the cast and there's a lot of comedy and we tend to skew younger, so maybe we don't necessarily fit the definition of what the spy genre would
mm,
be, but I feel like because of that, there's just so much that all of this cast can show,
yeah.
and maybe we haven't had the chance to necessarily show that in our previous careers. So, like Angel
Yeah,
Parker, who plays my boss on the show,
yeah.
was a mom on Disney,
Oh
and here
wow,
she is pulling fingernails out from
yeah.
Noah Centineo. I mean, that's just you wouldn't necessarily peg her as being that kind of character, but I mean, Angel brings it. So
It's interesting that how people have this conception of, I mean, with the main cast members on there, they are quite young and they're obviously played. I mean, that Noah starred in his chick flicks on Netflix
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that. To coming into this, and my conception of how is he gonna be a mature actor in this show
yeah,
as opposed to the childish one that he's been in his other shows on there. But I think it's having that ability to switch up your character, like you said. He's played a mom on Disney, and then next thing you know, he's ripping fingernails out on there. And like you said, having that ability to do that is makes you versatile as well, and sort
yeah.
of, I guess, more approachable for different roles as well.
Yeah,
And
we were not making the Bourne Identity,
yeah,
you know. We were making our own version of a spy show, and so casting Noah in that part, it probably surprised a lot of people, but it creates for a very entertaining and exciting story.
it was different. I You can watch your typical, like, Jack Ryan, Bourne Identity, James Bond, and they're very serious. But what one thing they do is lack comedy, and this show had a bit of comedy, action, thriller. So it was just your emotions were fluctuating like a roller coaster practically, and I think that's what made the show unique. And Netflix to look and say, actually, you know what, this stands out from our other shows. Let's renew it, give it
Yeah,
a next opportunity on there. And I think they've took it, and all of you as cast members have done a phenomenal job of it. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and
thank you,
it's something we didn't expect, and I mean that in a good way.
thank you. Yeah,
So Jesse, from your perspective as an actor, I mean, when people watch these shows nowadays, streaming sites have had a massive impact. Someone's gone from literally there right to there within an overnight thing.
yeah,
We've seen it with Squid Games, we've seen it with Outer Banks, we've seen it with The Recruit, we've seen it loads of shows. A lot of people would look at that and say, "Oh, I want to turn over, become that overnight phenomenon." But what advice would you give actors and actresses out there, sort of, to want to get to that standard?
sure. Well, I first thing I would say, just in reaction, is that there's no such thing as an overnight success in this business.
Yeah.
It just seems like it sometimes. Uh, so yeah, I think focusing on the fundamentals. At the end of the day, the story is what matters, and so the more an actor can kind of appreciate storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not just, again, the business of acting and like the glamour and building Instagram followers and that sort of thing. Like, I think if you can really understand how to tell a story and how your part fits in telling the story, I mean, that alone gives you longevity.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that we are just tools that
Mm.
writers, directors, producers use to move a story along. So yeah, I would say focusing on the fundamentals, taking acting class,
Yeah.
getting comfortable in front of the camera, getting comfortable with around other actors, building that
Mm.
network of creatives that you can work with. Uh, yeah, because at the end of the day, there really is no such thing as an overnight success. It's little by little decisions and steps you can take to eventually get to wherever it is that you want to get to.
Brilliant. That's a perfect piece of advice on there, and it's something I like to ask everyone, because it gets everyone's different take on it, and your take was a brilliant take on there. But yeah, Jesse, thank you very much for joining us
Thank
today,
you.
and
Appreciate it.
I wish you the best of luck for the rest of your career, and
Thank you.
also filming in for season 2, and hopefully it gets released the end of this year and we can check it out on there. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to be back after season 3, or yeah, sure, season 3 as well, but season 2, and you can let me know what you think.
I'll, I know I have a positive thinking of it. Blew it out the water, so I only know it's just going to go onwards and upwards on there. But yeah, congratulations to yourself on that, and also your career as an overall, Jesse.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate.